I mean, people will say to me all the time, did you always dream of owning an NBA team? Who the heck grows up dreaming of owning an NBA team? You can't dream of having enough money to buy an NBA team. Then, I was very fortunate financially, and then you get an opportunity, and that happens to a lot of people, and you say, I've always loved the sport. I'll stretch to do this because it'll bring me great joy.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of SBJ's On Stage. I'm your host, Taylor Bloom. This week's episode features Steve Ballmer, chairman of the LA Clippers and Intuit Dome and former CEO of Microsoft. This conversation took place on September 16th, 2025 at SBJ's Access Drive conference in Los Angeles. Ballmer sat down with SBJ's publisher and executive editor, Abe Madkour. In trademark Ballmer fashion, the discussion spans from his vision for the Clippers and the Intuit Dome to lessons he's carried from Microsoft to why energy is at the center of everything he does. It's an unfiltered look at leadership, innovation, and the future of the NBA fan experience. Let's go on stage.
Well, Steve, thanks for joining us. I know you got a lot going on. I know you could have canceled, so we are grateful that you're here. And I know that you've had a lot going on, including allegations against the team about the partnership with Aspiration. I don't know if you want to address it right off.
Sure. This is not a fun thing to be through. I was personally defrauded through our interactions with the company and some of the staff. The fraud sort of extended broadly through that. We had many relationships with the company, sponsor, activation was through carbon credits, all a bunch of complicated stuff. But the important thing is our relationship with the company and our players' relationship with the company were independent, which is important under the rules of the NBA. I feel quite confident in that we abided the rules. And so I welcome the investigation that the NBA is doing. It's a great way from our perspective to get the facts out there. And as I say, there's nothing fun about being highlighted in this way. It's a whole lot more fun to be highlighted for building a great arena. But this too shall pass. And like I said, I feel very good about what we did, and we welcome the NBA taking a look at it and hopefully agreeing with us.
Well, like I said, I appreciate you sticking to your commitment, what you've done, and we appreciate you being here. So moving on, we're going to Intuit. I know you and I talked a lot before Intuit launched and opened up. Has it met your expectations?
Yes, and we'll get better. I mean, it's kind of a great thing. We had a great first year. Our technology worked mostly, and when it didn't, our fans mostly didn't see that, if you will. And the technology is fundamental to the fan experience. A lot of the things we do, it's not just tech for tech's sake, but it is tech to enhance the fan experience, whether it's in the way you buy, whether it's in the way we present the game, whether it is in just the speed with which you can return to your seat. So yes, is the answer. And to me, I think about it like a software product. Version 1 was good, really good. Version 2, even better. We used to get our chops busted when I was at Microsoft that we didn't get anything right to version 3, but version 3, season after this, even better. Yeah, because essentially we have a software-defined building, and software can be upgraded and changed and enhanced. Yes, we'll have to continue to make some investments in capital, and there's some things physically that'll need to change. But our experience will just be better this year. If you look at our off-season capital investment, the biggest part of the capital investment is going into software development, not into actually physical infrastructure.
This past off-seasons?
Yeah, this off-season we're in right now. I think we're spending about 3-to-1, 4-to-1, something like that on software to improve the experience, but as opposed to physical capital that people think about.
Biggest surprise in terms of how fans utilize the building in your eyes was what? How do they utilize it in a surprising way?
I surprised the wall, our 51 uninterrupted rows with the swell, our standing room only section. I wasn't sure we'd really have that right in year one. I wasn't sure because it takes a while to cultivate that kind of fan experience and energy. If you look at what happens, for example, among soccer teams, it can take a year or two to build that kind of experience. So surprise may not have been the right word, but it pleasantly went fast.
So people adopted to the wall, gave you a home court advantage in your mind?
Well, not just in my mind. If you look at the statistics, free throw shooting against the wall was the lowest, by visiting teams was the lowest percentage of any arena in a meaningful way, lower.
Unlike a lot of venues where I was talking to a team executives, they said they knew 30, 40% of the people in their building. Intuit, because of the technology, you feel like you know 100% of the people in that venue, pretty much.
I don't feel like it.
Okay. I like how you correct me.
We know 100% of the people because we designed an experience where unless you're, I'll call it in a computer sense, unless you log into the building, you can't come in. And when you log in, we absolutely know your name, we know your address. You can give us a payment method if you want. We encourage you to give us a payment method when you log in, and then we can facilitate what goes on. You can choose to log in with your face or not log in with your face. And if you don't log in, a couple things are, when you walk into the market, you actually have to tap your phone. But if you've logged in with your face, you've logged in to buy things everywhere. We know whether you're in your seat. People say, do we know who's in the building? We know whether you're in your seat in the building with proximity detection. We know how loud you are in your seat. So Charlie Smith, put out this many decibels in our game against the Rockets. So yeah, do we know who's in the building? Yes. Do we know a whole lot? Do we know that Charlie bought a pretzel? We know not only that Charlie's in the building, but we know what Charlie bought.
How long before you fully optimize that data and information?
V1, V2, V3. Did we mine all we know as well as we will this season? No. Right. No, we just, our software needed to improve. We understand now what we need to do, how we would direct specific messages to specific fans. Hey, Abe, it's great having you at the last 3 games, but you seem to have lost some energy. We're not hearing from you, and oh, by the way, we notice you're a little late in your seat. Now that's a negative message. I'm sure when the marketing gurus get hold of that, that'll sound much more positive. Hey, we love you, man.
I hope it's more positive, right?
Your team's winning because of you, and you can even do more of this great work you've done. That's a little better marketing than my first pass at.
Do they have to match your energy?
No.
Is that the litmus test? No.
No.
Okay.
No. There's plenty of ways for fans to. It's nice if people make noise because it can immediately impact the game, if you will. But there's other ways for people who are quieter to show their support. A full building. It used to be when I first bought the Clippers, players would tell me we don't even notice the fans. It's fine. Whatever happens in the building, we're fine. Then we went through COVID and the bubble. And you know what players learned through that experience? They actually do care if there are fans in the building. And so people's physical presence, being there, being loud is great, but being there, being in your seats, giving, even through your presence, that sense of energy. Wearing a jersey, wearing the color of the day, all of those things are a way of showing real support to your team and helping, if you will, not only improve the experience for the players on the floor, but also a sense of community and the other folks in the arena.
I'm going to get to questions, so there's one right here. Ask Steve how he is thinking about premium hospitality. He took a unique approach to it. Is that changing?
Again, version 1, after version 1, you don't lose your course. You course correct, but you're staying the path. I'm very pleased with where we wound up, with a few exceptions. We have a club that doesn't have quite enough capacity to get in at halftime. We've worked on that. It was one of the investment areas for us in the off season, as an example. That was important to us. We can improve the remote ordering for suites, and people didn't just want an app, they really wanted a web experience. So you might have an executive assistant and a computer, pre-order what food you want in the suite. So there's a set of things like that, a little more capacity in our highest level club for people around the court. So we have some things that we're tweaking and tuning for sure, but and we made some big decisions. We built these bunker suites, which I know are more common than not, but we built a lot of them. We have 20, and at least for us, really getting those all sold through. I think we're going to be in a much better shape this year now that people understand the experience. We built these, we call them cabanas, but they're basically 4 suites in the end zone. Kind of like football end zone suites. For those of you who haven't been there, you'll see them. That was a new product. People had to get their mind around it. That's a product that I think we'll see better usage of this year than we did last year. So there's a set of things that we just need to continue to refine. We took a perspective that says we're going to make the clubs physically large so people don't have to get kind of all bunched up. I remain happy with that decision. Right. It lets people get in, get out, and not every club has to be like a nightclub. During concerts, a little more like that. But during the basketball games, we can do that, or we can flip a little bit. I think we made right calls there. I don't know if that was responsive.
No, that was and so is the philosophy of Steve Ballmer still speed, quickness, fan amenities, and getting people in the venue, in the seats. In the
venue, in the seats. Because, look, you don't have to come to a live event. You could stay home if you just want to see the game, hear the music. There's plenty of opportunities. So you have to say what's different about the live event. And it's either socialization or actually experience what's going on. And you can optimize a little more or a little less across those two. We took a point of view clearly that we're going to optimize around the notion of having people be there physically to enjoy the performance, whatever kind of performance it is. And LA is an unusual place relative for me. I grew up in Detroit. I've lived in Seattle for years. I went to school in Boston. But you only have one team in the market in those places. And in LA, we have 2, plus a lot of college action, et cetera. And so for us, particularly as the team that hasn't won championships, coming up with a unique point of view and optimizing around it was important to us.
How are you a better owner today than you were 12 years ago, 13 years ago?
Good question. I would say in the following sense. When you actually buy a team, at least my experience, you don't know what the heck your job is. You really don't. Are you going to be, and for me coming out of Microsoft, am I going to try to be the CEO and operate things? Am I going to try to be a hands-off owner? Am I going to, what I call myself now is kind of like an executive chairman? I'm involved, but really the people who run the business, and my job is to ask questions and challenge. There's a few big things, like the arena I micromanaged. Gillian and I worked as partners, but nobody would call hands off with the arena. But when it comes to running our real business, ticketing, sponsorship, et cetera, I can be relatively hands off. And I think that's right. It's certainly right for me in my phase of life, because I don't really want to do that stuff. I had plenty of opportunity in my life to worry about that. We've got great people. On the sports side, on the basketball side, I've also learned a lot. Some owners, I think, come in and really want to put their mark on the roster. I came in quite to the contrary, but I came in some more unusual circumstances than not, I would say. And I really wanted to kind of let the folks there just run. That was really important to me. And today, what I would say is our basketball department is really driving things, and yet I'm talking to our president of basketball, Lawrence Frank, frequently, because that's what's fun about owning a sports team. It's not saying, oh, for the number 7 spot on the roster, Lawrence, we got to get Charlie instead of Harry. No, that's just not respecting people's expertise. Now asking questions, why do you like Charlie so much better than Harry? Or Harry so much better than Charlie? And, oh, but that's different than something else you told me a while ago. Just to give an outside-in perspective. And on the biggest decisions, it's not, people ask, who made the decision, for example, to trade for Paul George? We gave up a lot. And was it you or the president of basketball? On decisions like that, you don't have any question or any possibility other than to be mind melded. And all of this, I would not have known when I bought Hey, I also thought it was easy to make money too.
Right, and you're not doing that, right?
We've taken a path of investment.
That's all personal investment, correct?
Yeah, not just in the building, but we're prior. Do you know the best way to improve revenue for a sports team? Number one, we've studied this. What is it? Pardon me?
Not buy one.
Sell the team? No. Win a championship. You win a championship, it helps support revenue and sponsorship for many years. It's not like, oh, we won one and then 3 years later we have a problem. You win a championship, that helps support not just value of the team, but it also helps support revenue and sponsorship and ticketing revenue. So we've kind of optimized digging a little bit more of a hole financially and hopefully setting ourselves up to win a championship.
You're a good man. You can afford it, right? And so the point on, you bought the team at that time, $2 billion, I believe. You see the Celtics valued at 6.1. You see the Lakers valued at $10 billion. You got a deal.
I don't regret at all what I paid for the Clippers. I don't regret. I've made money on the Clippers. All good. I'm not planning on selling it until I'm gone. So it's never going to, value creation in our team is really going to go to our philanthropy. I don't think our kids will choose to opt in, but you never know. But at the end of the day, the other thing people forget is there's a thing called compound interest. And if you sort of use that, you'll say, $2 billion, but it has to be inflated by about 4, 5, 6, let's call it time value or equity returns. So it has to grow by 7% a year for 12 years. That doesn't mean $2 billion is $2 billion anymore.
Right.
And outperforming the market, yes, I have. Yes, everybody in the league has, even more importantly. And yet, it's a little different than 2 goes to whatever it might be today.
Do you see franchise valuations continuing to increase? What would be a headwind?
I think the number one headwind is finding buyers who can come up with all the money that it takes to buy teams. And particularly, it's tough. Let's say you're trying to raise, call it $4.5 billion, and the lead persons can come up with $1.5 billion, which is it's very tough to find people who've got $1.5 billion that they can just put in a team. But then you have to find minority partners who are really, you can't get them 30, 40 million at a time. It's really hard to get there. So particularly, how do you get the minority partner money? And the private equity policies certainly help, but that's only to 15%. So what are going to be the sources of capital that round out and support these larger valuations? That's what I think the number one challenge will be.
And Steve, in your mind, driving the valuations is what? Scarcity or the appeal and revenue principles of sports teams?
I think it's 2 things. 1, it's scarcity, and 2, it's love of game. Cash flow matters. A lot of people don't want to buy something that they need to continue to feed because of negative cash flow. If you manage things tightly, I think you can get that pretty good. You're not going to make a boatload of money, but you certainly don't have to go negative on cash flow. But I think the thing that propels valuation is love of sports and scarcity. I mean, if we had 50 NBA teams, I don't think anybody would argue that the price of a franchise would be lower. So I think some scarcity is of value, and you just got to find people who love it. I mean, people will say to me all the time, did you always dream of owning an NBA team? Who the heck grows up dreaming of owning an NBA team? You can't dream of having enough money to buy an NBA team. Then, I was very fortunate financially, and then you get an opportunity, and that happens to a lot of people, and you say, I've always loved the sport. I'll stretch to do this because it'll bring me great joy. And at least for virtually every owner I know, it's a top source of joy in their lives.
Mm-hmm. Private equity's investment in sports will continue, and is it a good thing?
Good thing. I don't have a strong opinion.
Okay.
As long as it continues to make sense in aggregate to the ownership group and to the leagues. The leagues have that, our league anyway, there's a sense of experience. Okay, what has worked in terms of ownership structures? What hasn't? So I look primarily to the league for leadership on that issue. And it certainly doesn't trouble me that we allow private equity to invest in our teams.
How do you feel about the state of the NBA? We've got 4, I believe, new media partners coming in starting next month. Obviously, NBC is exciting. Amazon, how do you feel about the state of the product?
Yeah, it was kind of fun at our governor's meeting last week.
Right.
All 3, ESPN, Amazon, NBC, all came in and kind of presented and talked about what they're doing, and I was really excited. You could say, okay, well, all they might do is just take our feed, the video feed, and stick it in their player. But no, they all had really cool plans on what they were going to do to enhance the experience, kind of over the video experience, how they were going to make their apps interactive, things that they were going to do. And so their desire to innovate was fantastic. All 3 of them in different ways. I'm also glad that we're on streaming with all of our national games. I think it's important. I mean, everybody talks about cord cutting, young people, no cable TV, but pretty much everybody is used to streaming something. Even older people are by and large used to streaming something because of Netflix or whatever may have brought them into the fold. And so I think having that base will also really propel viewership. So great partners, streaming in addition to broadcast and cable, which are not unimportant anymore, and then innovation. I think it's very exciting.
And I heard they talked about cross-promotion and discoverability because they're going to be on different networks, different nights, different times. So you think the future of consumption for sports fans is largely through a device and streaming? Simple question.
Sure.
Yeah, right.
I mean, look, broadcast and cable are important today and may be important for a long time. I'm silent on that question. But look, I was in the tech industry. Of course I believe streaming's the future. Of course I believe you can't do the same kind of interactivity. You can't build the same kind of experiences on broadcast and cable. That doesn't mean those are going to be unimportant, but you can't do some cool things. So yes, I do believe, and I'm glad that there are smart people at the league office who can continuously remind me, hey, tech head, broadcast and cable are also going to be very important, and we get that kind of distribution with these partners as well.
And for the audience, All-Star Game here next February. Be pretty exciting at Intuit and all the events around it.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped up about that. I think we're probably the first arena that was awarded an All-Star Game before the building was built.
Right.
So I feel pretty good about that. And our team is really putting a lot of energy along with the league office in terms of what'll it take to really, forget the format, that's a different thing, but whatever format the league alights on, how do we bring more energy to the experience? I mean, it's a weird game because it's not a home game for anybody. And so what can we do as part of the team with the NBA in terms of activating and Intuit? I think there's some pretty clever ideas.
Since you were such a good sport coming today, speaking to us, can we have a little fun?
Sure.
True or false and some quick hitters?
Okay.
All right. True or false first? You were shy as a child, so shy to the point that you would hyperventilate if going out in public.
What do you think? True or false? True. When I was on my way to Hebrew school, my mom used to make me roll down the window. breathe so that I'd have enough courage to go in. So the answer is yes.
Okay. True or false? You tried to write screenplays in Hollywood.
False. I hate writing. I've never been a good writer. I somehow managed to get through college without writing a paper after freshman year because I hated it so much. But I did want to be in the movie business, and I thought about what it would be to be a producer. And then I came out actually here to LA for a few months between my pre-business school job and business school, and I said, "Nah, this isn't for me. I don't see that path."
True or false? You were related to the late great Saturday Night Live comedian Gilda Radner.
What do you think? True. Second cousin. Our grandfathers were brother and sister who came over from what's now Belarus together.
True or false? You were a phys ed major at Harvard.
What do you think? It's sort of true. I was actually officially an applied math and economics major, but I was the football team manager and a basketball statistician. So some might say I spent as much time on phys ed as I did on math and economics.
True or false? You once shared an office with Jeff Immelt when you were at Procter & Gamble.
Jeff ran General Electric, and the answer is true. And as Jeff will remind you, we were just kind of a couple knuckleheads recently out of college, and we did a lot of playing of waste paper basketball with crumpled up paper.
I love it. All right, now we go to some more quick hitters. Finish this question for me, Steve. Your staff would say that Steve Ballmer's management style is?
Intense.
If you were a commissioner for a day of any sport, what would you change?
Pass. Don't. No, that's pass like I've never thought about it. I'm not coming up with some glib answer, so I'll pass.
Can't phone a friend. If you could, what would be the advice you would give your younger Steve Ballmer?
I would say find your passion. Make that the number one priority that you have as you finish, even during school and as you finish school. Now, I was fortunate. I mean, younger Steve Ballmer, I was fortunate that I found that, but it's not because that was what was in my mind. What was in my mind is find the good career track, build the resume, all of that, and then I happened to find my passion.
So it was first for you, resume building, career path.
And then Bill Gates, who I'd been in school with, called me and things flipped completely. But I would say find your passion would be job one for any young person.
Finish this sentence for me. What would the reaction of your wife, Connie, be if you said you wanted to buy the Seattle Seahawks?
She'd be excited that I go to Seahawk games with my next wife. That's not even a comment about football. It's just she thinks I'm away enough right now at sports events.
So enough sports in Steve Ballmer's portfolio?
Yeah, enough sports.
Favorite
made that clear.
Favorite athlete growing up was?
Growing up, favorite athlete, Joe Schmidt, linebacker, Detroit Lions.
How many knew Joe Schmidt, linebacker for the Detroit Lions? Raise your hand. Okay,
56, Joe Schmidt. Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. But when I was in second grade, that's all I draw pictures of was Joe Schmidt.
That's all you draw for second grade. All right, so we're going to end with some industry questions for the audience. Give them a story or two in sports business that you're keeping an eye on that they should be paying attention to.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the other leagues what happens as they approach the move to streaming. I think everybody's doing things a little bit differently. The story is to be written, and I think there'll be a lot to learn. The second thing I would say is we need a new revenue stream. Ticketing will only grow so fast. If you're in ticketing, you probably know this, but nobody likes to admit it. Ticketing will only grow at a certain rate. Sponsorships only going to grow at a certain rate. And the question is, what's media? What's that next line item? What can we conceive? The way I said it when I was working is, what's the next row in the spreadsheet? We need one more revenue row. How do we get there? How do we think about it? Is there that other way to monetize the great live content? And I think that's a big question.
And outside of expansion, it's just like a similar line item. Which
No, this is just another,
Right, for teams.
Ticketing's a way to monetize. Sponsorship, media. Is there another way to monetize that will be material? And I have no ideas, and yet I think it's important if we're going to grow value of teams.
Outside of winning the game, what would make the live sports experience better for fans overall?
I think there is a magic window of how long fans want to stay engaged. I'm not one of these people who say, oh, it's the TikTok generation, everything's got to be a minute and a half or 3 minutes, or let's get the games down to an hour. That is not where I come from. On the other hand, just think about the change that's come about in baseball when they put in the pitch clock and the game shortened. I think it has really made baseball a better live experience. And, football, little different because they have so few games and, they have so few games. But 18 minutes of actual action between the ball hike, ball down, is that about right, 18 minutes? And the game can take 3.5 hours. I think in the longer term sense, that's probably something that they'll need to address. But again, I'm not expert in the game. Well, I know a little about the game of football. I'm not expert in the business side of football.
But the audience should pay attention on just attention time and keeping pace and speed in the product.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. And you asked me, I think, you or somebody else said, what do I think about automation and what the referees do? I think that's a real opportunity to continue to improve speed of game. And, I like our replay. I think the replay system is really good, but being able to speed the process of getting through replays, I think will be very valuable.
Well, you have a lot going on. We appreciate being in Los Angeles. We're excited to see your venue tonight, but give it up for Steve Ballmer. Thanks very much, sir. Great seeing you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of On Stage. If you enjoyed this exclusive conversation with Steve Ballmer, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with colleagues who are thinking about leadership and innovation in sports. Here's a thought starter to take with you. Ballmer says his philosophy begins with energy. What's the core principle that drives your own leadership approach? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a note at tbloom@sportsbusinessjournal.com. We'll be back next week with another powerful conversation shaping the future of sports business. Until then, stay tuned and stay ahead. This is On Stage.